Baseline. I wish I could say the same for the baseline. Yeah. I'm gonna put the resonance on the hairline. More scrub.
thank you very much for coming, everybody. Yeah, it's been awesome being here and playing you this music to you guys. It's been great. Well, not as good as listening to others. It was really awesome music here. That was really fun. And yeah, I'm Jake. I'm known as Dataline, and I work for Electron in Berlin right now. And in this setup, I use the Octatrack as the key that kind of mixes everything up. And at the same time, that's how I route the audio into the modular to be affected. So the effect rack, the modular is only an effects. There is no audio generation. It's only for processing and making mess out of the sounds that these boxes make. And the Octatrack is very handy in this case because I can queue out tracks to whatever effects unit that I want to send it to. I think this is a great use case for many musicians out there. Because you can plug up to 4 different sources on an Octatrack, assign them to one of the 8 tracks, and then you can queue them out to queue them out using the queue outputs. I love that feature. So basically, when I say I want to have only the digitone to go through the delay and all the other stuff, I queue only the digitone track. If I want to have the drum machine, which is the rhythm, I queue that track. And I've got like other samples playing in the Octatrack also. So if I want to queue them into the modular, it's possible. This is a great mixer, performance, keep it all together type of tool, the Octatrack. So that's what the Octatrack does. It also plays those drum and bass jungle beats. That's I really like. And then, there's the Digitone, the 4-track, 8-voice FM synthesizer. Yeah, this thing is just a wet dream of mine. It's the best digital synth ever made. It just does everything I wished for all those years. Finally, it's here. I love it to bits. What I would wish for from it is that, yeah, it had a bit more dirtier, a bit more dirt on it, but you can't have everything in this case. Sorry?
Is there a few more LFOs?
Yeah, maybe a few more LFOs, but, harsher distortion. Those were the things I'd ask. In this set, it was doing all the melodic stuff that I is really important for me, because that's where I can put a lot from myself into the music. All these beats and stuff, yeah, they're kind of, they make your head nog. But what happens with the digitone is there is something else that's just not in your head, and that's what I really like about it. I can tell much more. So it does the melodies there, and then it goes into the Octatrack, of course, which has its own track, which some effects applied to keep it in time. And with the Octatrack's crossfader, I actually change a lot of stuff that happens in the Digitone's incoming audio port. So when I push it, it kind of adds a bit more reverb and filtering for the Digitone, so that the mix is a bit different and there's something happening at the time. And that's how they work. Then we have the rhythm here, and this is a really fantastic drum machine. It's, just because you can layer samples, digital samples, and analog synthesis in one track, and that goes in through an analog multi-mode filter and an overdrive. It's so cool. This is really, really good. It's my go-to beat-making machine. And then this, of course, goes into, this is a bit weird now. The Digitone output is stereo. It goes into the Octatrack stereo. And then the rhythm output is a stereo output too. But if I use it like that, then the modular is kind of out of the game. So what I do is that I treat the rhythm as like a mono source. Yeah, you may think, oh, what the fuck, but still, the thing is, I think having the beat as a mono source, it actually makes more sense, and especially in this case, it really does for me. Less information is sometimes better, especially when in music, and if it's supposed to be a banging stuff. So, it's a bit awkward way of doing it, I think. Such a hi-fi device that you're plugging in a mono, but it works. And then, of course, the rhythm has its own individual track on the Octatrack so that it can be processed. And on that track, I have a chorus, which is awesome. Putting chorus on beats is the best thing. And then there is a reverb, of course. So when I push the fader, the chorus and the reverb is activated, while it removes frequencies from the Digitone also, kind of like dropping the beat down. I don't know how to name it. It's just some other slider to play around with. And then sometimes we have the modular effects here. I only use it for effects. I'd love to have a system where I could be very comfortable in producing audio in a modular system and take it live and I haven't met that yet. They're all all over the place, but this is awesome. Here I have the first thing is a 4-channel mixer. This would be the delay, the first delay, this is the second delay, and then the clouds, the reverb. So I have 3 wet effects going into this mixer. The first 2 is delay, and then the fourth one is reverb. It's very easy to put them in and remove them into the mix while using the fader and all the other effects. It gives me a lot of area to play around with the compositions I make. If I didn't have this thing, I would probably have to make double the patterns and ideas, which I don't really like doing. I don't really like to put myself in a position to make music. Say about my work, but so it's easier to prepare sets if you have something that is very playful. I really believe in that. I think there is 2 ingredients that's very important when jamming or making electronic music in these boxes. One, that you're going to be very creative, and one, that you're going to process the audio. I think these are 2 very important elements, and this is what I try to achieve here. Moving on, I have the crush delay from Befaco. I love Befaco stuff. They're from Barcelona in Spain. They make these awesome modules. You know them. So yeah, where's the crush delay, and then MS-20 filter clone, again by Befaco. They run in parallel, so the delay output goes into the filter. I have low pass and high pass running at the same time, and I remove a lot of bass from the delay engine so that it doesn't cover so much on the mix. There is the kicks, there is the bass, there is the snare. You want it to have a very little information with such a busy and strange sound which the delay engine produces. So they work like that. Then I have a Rampage module, which is actually 2 envelopes / LFOs in one box. That's the simplest way of saying it. If you look at it in a complex way, it has so many outputs that transmit the signals that you're producing with the LFOs and the envelopes. A lot of CV outputs and ins, and a lot of options for how the LFO and the envelopes would work. This is a really cool and interesting, and not that you see around much, type of interface for modulation. It doesn't produce any sound. You can produce sound out of it, but it's very nerdy and geeky for me. Yeah, sure. Okay, and then so it's a Rampage. That's what the modulation is for, and I use the CV outputs for the delay speeds, because I have 2 delays actually. We haven't got to that yet, but so I have 2 delays, and each of them gets a different type of LFO for the speed CV input. So, and then with this knob here, I can introduce that modulation into the delay engines. This is a really cool way to really mess things up. When you don't have enough ideas on your machines, so to say. So I love that. That's a really cool way. Then next, I have the mutable instruments, clouds. It's kind of like a, what is it called? Texture synthesizer. And the incoming audio gets some kind of resampled and processed and spit out in a granular and a reverby way, glass tones. So maybe you were hearing those glass tones, especially on the digitone. That makes the room bigger almost. That's what it does. I really like this. This is, again, it's very unique. I really want to have the things that do very unique things and you don't get to see much elsewhere. I guess that's the whole point of actually investing in such an instrument, at least for me. It needs to be very unique and special, and they really are, I think. And then the 2 modules here is exactly the same setup as the delay and the filter I was telling you about on this side. I'm a bit of a greedy guy, I guess. I didn't have enough one. I was not, satisfied with one delay and filter, but I had 2 now. It's really cool that way. And for the composition-wise, there wasn't much improvisation actually on this one, apart from noodling around on this. I pretty knew what I was going to play, and there was an issue here, which let's come to that later on, because that really pissed me off. But that can happen. It was my mistake. It's a user error, but with the heat of action, things go wrong. So when it comes to composition, I think I had 11 patterns on the digitone, 14 patterns on the octatrack, And then, yeah, 13 patterns on the rhythm. So more or less the same amount of patterns, give or take 10. And the digitone only focuses on the melodic parts. This one is more of everything and the beats. And for example, if I play pattern number 3 on all the machines and I press play, that will definitely make sense because I know that if I play 3 on all of them, the composition is alive. Then I have 4 tracks here, 12 tracks there, 8 tracks in here, a lot of things to play around with. So you just need to mute and unmute the melody or the beats at the right time. This is the way I approach it. So it's pre-make your material and just introduce it to the speakers when you're playing it. That's the method that I like to follow. So it gives you kind of like a safe hand at poker, but also you can bluff at the same time, meaning you play your composition and you also improvise on it. It's a great way to do it. And looking around, Electron is the kind of the one and only, almost the one and only, that offers this feature that I can so tidily and neatly arrange my patterns and compositions and sounds into a very accessible manner where I can actually edit on the fly. Yeah, it's funny. And so that's the way that I do it. And yeah, they're all MIDI synced. The digitone is the master, which then octatrack is slaved and then the rhythm is slaved. Why the digitone is the master? Because this is my feature request to Electron right now. Because digitone is the only one that can store BPM per pattern, which is a huge omission. Yeah, look at that. And I tell, but here we are. So that's why the digitone is the master, so that I know which composition will follow which BPM. On these other machines, you have to remember them or note them down. Yeah. So you guys, got any questions? If not, thank you very much for coming. Oh, there's. Yeah. Yeah, that's a very good question. I didn't use it in this set.
What was the question?
The dual VCO on the rhythm, is it being used? I didn't. To be honest, I just prepared the set yesterday and today, where we're staying. So yeah, I didn't really look into that. But how the rhythm was working, it was very drums and very like full drums. This was like the lights, sample-based, that type of stuff. So they complemented each other, and that's why they need a dual VCO there. Yeah. So no. Yeah.
I have a quick question. I saw you on the octave track. I saw you pushing the button. It's like creating a repeat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you ask my.
I saw you holding the button and then it was repeating. Maybe it was going fast. I don't know.
But it is. When I hold it, it's at that moment of what the music is being fed, or no, what the music that is being out from the octatrack gets looped as I press it. And that loop has a time division, which can be modified when I hold the button. These light up, maybe you can see it. And when these light up, these actually modify the timing of the loop that I am picking out. So it's kind of a beat trip effect. But what is really neat here is that the way that I set up the delay engine, that causes the beat trip effect, is when I capture that audio, the audio that is coming out from the octatrack doesn't get muted. So the effects and the dry signal can be heard at the same time. If you don't do it like that, when you press it and you hear just the wet, it's very glitchy and stuttery. But if that is the thing you're after, so be it. It does that too. So that's the beat repeat effect. And it's assigned on the master track on the octatrack. The octatrack has 8 tracks, but one of them can be selected as a master track. Then the 2 effect blocks will be your master effects. And that's how I did it. Yes. Yeah.
There was one thing you did at the end where you sort of like destroyed all the sound and the digitone. It was like something crazy. Could you explain the
Yeah, sure. The digitone and the digitact has they got multiple tracks. On this one you have 4 tracks, and whatever track that you're focused on, you can tweak it by using the knobs. But if you hold this button here, you will change the 4 tracks at the same time. So it's like having an octopus arm all of a sudden when you hold that button. It's quite trippy and really, really cool. So when you do that, you can just, hold that button, go like this, or even put a sausage in middle of the button knobs. And if you go like that, That's actually, that's an office joke. It was a very in joke that I was very glad to introduce it here naturally. We always joke about putting sausages in encoders. Yeah. Imagine that, yeah.
Electron sausages.
So when I was doing that, I was editing the synth page. So on the synth page of the Digitone, you have the operators, the 4 operators, and they're like oscillators. They produce sine waves, you know. And when you change the frequency of them all at the same time, you get this messed up effect. And once you start switching to other pages such as filter, delay, reverb, LFOs, and do this sausage trick, man, it's crazy stuff. It's yeah, nowhere else to be seen almost. It's like, man, it's so intuitive and very close to the heart and the brain at the same time. I think it's the man-machine interaction is very important, and these ones really excel at that. Yeah.
What was happening with your sample?
Yeah, why did Octatrack mess up? Yeah. Yeah. And we were talking about that. I think it was with you, why my samples aren't in sync. Right. What happened is here is that the Octatrack has got 8 tracks, and each of the track can play it back its samples time stretched. So anything that you put in here can be synced up to your BPM. Sounds great, right? But it didn't. So what it is that you have a lot of parameters to actually make sure that this works correctly. Or you can do tricks with them. So you have these parameters that is on the page. And they're the buttons are here. So when I was going around, I accidentally changed some of the values, which then as a result, it changed the speed of the sample, which then it was totally out, as everybody heard. And I was like, what the hell? But then, that's the first thing that I looked at is that, oh, are the parameters in the correct position? Yeah, they are. So what actually happened is, you have this awesome fader on the Octatrack. So you can hold, let's say, when you push the fader, you want to have pitch and filter changes. How do you do that? You hold the button and you assign the changes. It's so very easy. But what happened here is that when I was so fast, fiddling around, I accidentally pressed that button and changed some of the speed settings. And so it was assigned, the speed was assigned to the fader, which made things much more crippled. But then when I noticed it, it was very easy to clear that. So it was like, yeah, pop off. So, yeah. So that was the issue. It was user error. Because I was like, damn, this has never happened. This is not a bug. It can't be. And it was a user error, yes. Yeah. Which is a shame. Well, not a shame. It's just, yeah, you learn, you know. I don't know. What?
I got a question for you, Cenk. How do you think about your music when preparing it live in terms of breaking it down into layers so that it sounds very finished? So, for example, with the rhythm, you're only using a mono output.
Yes.
So that doesn't really invade the mix so much. It sort of has a limited slot that it kind of fits in. How many different layers do you think about with your music? Like, I need room for the kick, room for the snare, and room for the pads. Because it sounded very, very balanced. Everything sounded really mixed. Nothing was fighting over anything.
Thanks. Yeah, that's surprising to hear because this is kind of shortly put together. Yeah, there's a lot. I think there is like for me, it's not layers, but it's actually frequencies.
Okay.
Yeah, because the kick and the bass can be the same layer if they're at the same frequency. If the bass is too low and the kick is a bit more poppy, then yeah. So I think that's the way that I would see it. But if we talk about layers, there is definitely the 3 things I'd say. It's the beat that really attracts your attention, the melody that gives you the feeling, and something else that puts it together. And this is what the setup translates into, you know, melody, bass, and that puts it together. I think that's the way that I would go with, look into it. But talking about that, more about that is, it's more like mixing now, isn't it? That's what we're talking. I really pay a lot of attention in the Octatrack to get the sound levels right, because this is the mixer, it's the final thing. And that's how it really puts together, I think. The Octatrack is really good at that. Yeah. So somehow it just glues everything together. And you can even take it further by assigning effects to the master track. I haven't done so this time. You can assign a compressor or an equalizer to be for, you know, changing stuff around. Yeah, but in this set, the layers would be is that the bass and the pads was totally digitone all the time. There was no melodic stuff coming from them. And here it was the jungle and drum and bass type of samples, like double timed 80s drums. And then the beats, the heavy beats was from here. So that's the three layers that I would say I was really focusing on. And shamefully, I didn't program much of the rhythm patterns. I just looked at what I had. Oh yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, I'll just leave it there. The main work I was doing on the set, it was them two. It was like, how did they work? This was kind of a complementary thing. Yes.
Do you game stage your stuff before you play live?
Ooh, what do you mean?
Like, do you set your levels at a certain location before you play? Like the kit, like watch it where it's at, and make sure that other things are.
Yeah, I actually rely on the mix that I have done previously. And then, well, in a room like this, it was great because I could hear exactly what you guys are hearing. But yeah, some club sucks, and yeah, you just do wrong things. And then they look at you thinking that you should play very nicely, but you can't because the sound system isn't good. Because then they think that I'm doing the same thing as a DJ does, plugging a USB, but it's not the same thing. I don't know why I'm going into that, but in this case, like I was asking the sound guy, I said, just turn it as loud, quite loud. So then I have a lot of headroom. I really pay attention to that. It's very important because if you run out of headroom, especially with the Octatrack, you can start clipping the inputs, and that it's not only clipping, it kind of degrades the whole thing. I really need to have a lot of headroom. That I really pay attention to that. Very important. So if I'm at home, like it's 9 o'clock is okay on the master level. Here at the gig, I would expect at 12, so that I have a lot of room to actually make it higher in the mix or lower in the mix. If I start at 9, that means that I am already like near clipping the Octatrack inputs, which is the mixer. And if I want to hear the digitone more, I will crank that up. Or like, this is in the red. So, is that what you were asking, kind of?
Kind of.
Yeah.
Because when I play live, I usually like to look at the frequencies of where my kick is hitting, where my bass is hitting, where my.
I can't see that detail. I don't have any kind of LEDs, unfortunately. I would love to see that. And that's what I find really useful with the Overbridge, actually, which is out now. Advertisement. That's another thing. If you run the standalone plugin that you guys will see or you've seen already, you get to see all the channels individually, which I wish these machines produce, but they don't have that. They have other things. They don't do that. So yeah, it's really lacking. What you're asking is something that I hope it's going to work out. And like I said, in clubs, sometimes it doesn't. And I have a really bad experience. You carry all this gear and it's like, the monitor is nothing to do. The sound engineer doesn't understand what you're doing. He's confused. He's like thinking, why did you bring this gear? Can't you just bring a USB key? Yeah. So it's very bothering. What you're saying is a very important thing, but I'm a bit crippled with that. And I couldn't even understand your question at first properly, so I don't really pay attention to that side of things. I just try to make it sound as good as I can. That's the intention. Yeah. Download the.
Do you have these
the one that I played right now?
Yeah.
No, like I said, I just made this yesterday and today. Yeah. Yeah, I'm on YouTube, Bandcamp. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff, and this is a style that I've lately been really into actually since New Year. I had a mega trip at New Year's Eve, so I was like, damn, this is good, and I hear a lot more than what I usually hear in this type of music. So that's making me very curious with this thing now. So yeah, I really want to do more stuff like this actually. Maybe, I don't know, we'll see, but yeah, it's getting me very excited. I was actually very bored of the music that I was making recently, but again, yeah, it's like 128 BPM or something. So I'm really happy to find this random path that all of a sudden happened. Maybe, I don't know.
Your music is clearly melodically focused. Do you start with your melodies when you're writing? Do you start with the beat? Some people start one way or the other.
Very good.
You start with a bass line. How do you approach it?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's usually the melody. That's the one that I really want to understand first. But on the other hand, it could be like, yeah, I just somehow while I'm talking to some or doing something, I just put a few steps and it sounds really good. All of a sudden, it's a beat, you know. And then I would start with the beat. But I think usually I always try to get the melody right. I really like the melody stuff. Because once you got the melody right, putting the beat is very easy. I find it, at least for me. I find it much difficult to write a melody on a beat. Yeah, that's what I notice. Yes, it's And for me, what I find easy to be creative is separate them, use the machines at once. Like I actually, the stuff that we were hearing, I was making it on the plane coming here on the Digitone with a little battery. So when I listened to them where we're staying, I was like, oh damn, these sound really good. Just play with the mix of it and make it sound nicer. Yeah, it was so good. So yeah, the melody is the one that I think really ticks me off. Yes. Yeah. Well, great. Thank you very much, everybody.
Signal event, and I wanted to thank Daniel Trober with Electron.
Yes. Woo!
I also want to thank Noisebug again for hosting this. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I guess I want to give you my Instagram. It's Trovarsi Official to find out more information for the next show that we're going to do. Thank you.
Yeah. Output?
The Q output. Okay. So it's Octatry that's going in here. Oh, because your mixer. Well, I know that.
So the Q output is this?
Yeah.
This one?
Splitter
It gets split into input here, input there, and then input. It's very ghetto. But it works.
It works.
Phenomenal experience.
Thank you, man. Thanks for coming, dude.
Yeah, seriously.
Just want to get some more inside stuff. What's that? This guy respects going to track on the house.
No, all the effects are coming out of the audio track.
Yeah, but like, do you have like a dry signal and a wet signal? Coming out of the track, there's the dry signal.
So you got the new tracks?